Governor Josh Shapiro wants to spend $80 million to attack the housing issues in Pennsylvania. I'm going to explain exactly what his plan means and how that might affect your real estate decisions if you're thinking about making a move to the greater Philadelphia area, Chester County, Delaware County, Montgomery County. And if you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call about your real estate plans, you can do that with our team in the link in the comments. So housing is often looked at as a very local issue, and that's no different here in the greater Philadelphia area. And Governor Josh Shapiro now has a plan to spend $80 million to attack the housing crisis. So here's exactly what he wants to do, and I want to read this verbatim for you. So Governor Shapiro, he's got a budget proposal, and he wants to put $80 million toward funding public legal defense against evictions and anti-homeless initiatives and restarting a popular home repair grant program. It's also seen in some pending legislation that he has as well that would preempt local zoning policies to spur housing construction. And that has my interest here and protect tenants amid increased evictions post-pandemic. The fact that he's talking about spurring housing construction, knowing that inventory is the biggest challenge that home buyers have right now, is very good news. So it's not a sure thing. This has got to get through the House and the Senate with the state. We know how lawmaking and politicians go. There's going to be a lot of arguing, a lot of back and forth. Hopefully they don't put too much pork into this when they pass these budgets. But the idea of spurring housing construction, to me, starts at the local level. And that's with zoning changes, allowing for more affordable housing to be built. Now, there's some other things not included in here I'm going to tell you about that would have a big impact, but let's look at the size and the scope of this and the housing shortfall that we're seeing in Pennsylvania right now. According to a number of different studies, Pennsylvania has a shortage of almost 100,000 housing units. So we're obviously short on available listings. And if you look at adding more funds to an affordable housing program, that's one point of Governor Shapiro's plan. Last year he successfully pushed to expand a state program that gave older and disabled Pennsylvanians a partial refund on their rent and property taxes. That's great. I think that's very helpful. And if you look at what they're trying to do here, he wants to replace the program's current funding formula. And this is getting bipartisan support, or at least it got it in the past. It's called the Pennsylvania Housing Affordability and Rehabilitation Enhancement Fund. It provides grants to local governments, nonprofits, and developers to build affordable housing, provide rental assistance, and pay for home repairs. And it's the most flexible funding the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has in housing, according to the executive director of the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. And it's driven by community needs. So he wants to replace the funding formula. Last year, the funding cap went from $40 million to $60 million. That was in 2022, so a little over last year. And that's tied to revenues from a state tax on real estate transaction, which is a guaranteed amount. So it's part of the transfer tax that happens. And under this proposal, the allocation would increase to $70 million in the next fiscal year and to $100 million in the next 4. So that makes sense. Giving people some relief on property taxes can increase affordability. Now, the thing I want to jump to here is going to be about land use, right? So this is something that's growing with bipartisan interest, and that's what really matters in these cases, right? You have to make sure you have both sides of the aisle supporting this, or nothing's ever going to get passed. So this is, and that's around land use, and it's changing Pennsylvania building codes and zoning laws. This, to me, is a major thing. And the problem is, if you look at new construction just in Chester, Delaware, Montgomery counties, the average sale price for new construction is between $800,000 and $1.2 million, county by county. That's not affordable. Our average sale price is around $426,000. So the typical buyer is not in a position to buy new construction, and we're dealing with a shortage of homes for sale. So if they're talking about changing these zoning codes, that could really help. The local zoning laws, they dictate how government controls what's built, where buildings go, what can be located within municipal boundaries. So there's been a dozen plus proposals this legislative session that would loosen these laws through preemption or incentives. and it would encourage housing construction and potentially reduce prices. Some of these include developing vacant shopping malls. Think about like the Granite Run Mall or the Exton Mall as a couple examples, or office parks into mixed-use communities, adding tiny homes into the state's construction code. No one's talking about that. It's like a condo basically, and allowing multifamily zoning in areas zoned for single-family residents. So this is the kind of proposal that can help the housing shortage, and I'm glad to see the governor's talking about this because there's a wide swath of organizations that back the current land use policies about open space acts and conservancy easements and all these sort of things. So if this actually happens, and if you're talking about a proposal that would loosen up zoning, well, then you're in a spot where builders can build. Now, I wouldn't stop there. If I'm the governor, I'd be offering tax incentives to local builders to build affordable housing that can be resold to the public. Tax incentives get people's attention. I'd be offering tax incentives, and this would have to come at the national level, on capital gains tax, changing the exclusions there that would incentivize sellers to make a move. So it's not new for builders and realtors to be opposed by local intervention. That's what you're going to have to worry about here. A lot of these like local state organizations, because builders want to be able to build what they want, what's going to sell, what there's going to be demand, and what's going to turn and actually transact. And the same thing with real estate agents. We want to sell things that actually are going to be sellable and that the community and the local area needs right now, which is affordable housing at medium price points. So we'll have to see how this goes. There's a couple state senators that are backing this. There's one Senator Nikhil Saval from Philadelphia. He focuses on housing and supports this proposal and argued that forcing every new project to undergo a local review gives extra power to those with the time and the resources to sit on or lobby those boards. So there's a lot of local intervention that happens here. So if this actually goes through, this could be a boon for the state of Pennsylvania to develop medium price points, tiny homes, things that people can actually afford, because first-time home buyers and medium price point housing is where the needs are in the market. Those are the most competitive parts. So stay tuned on this. A great start from Governor Shapiro. I'm excited to see this. It's much more action than we're getting from a lot of other folks. And stay tuned as we follow what happens next with these zoning laws in Pennsylvania.